Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast. My name is Joe, that is Jay, and that is Finn, aka Academy Scoop. How we doing, lads? You good?
Getting there, man.
Yeah?
Feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going to lie to you, Joe. It's been a slog, this international break.
Yeah.
Done in with it all.
What have you been doing? Has it been like that? The shots of, was it from Narcos? Where you've got, what's the main guy in Narcos called?
I haven't watched it.
He's your big boy.
The big boy.
The big drug dealer of the 80s.
Oh,
Pablo Escobar.
yeah.
Pablo Escobar
yeah.
stood in the pool.
The
He's
big
like
boy.
sat in the garden, just staring
when
forward.
it's all going wrong.
That's just you,
Yeah,
isn't it? This last 2 weeks,
it's
just
honestly,
not sure what to look at.
It's been difficult, but we've got through it as a collective,
Yeah.
as a
We are
Stretford Paddock
almost
family.
there.
We've
Yeah.
got through it.
We've broken the back of it, as they say.
Yeah, you know, Finn's been coming and doing academy review. He's been doing other stuff with us.
Just
We've
lighting
been
up the whole place.
looking at the
Yeah.
younger players. We've regurgitated every single news story we can do.
Yeah.
Several
Well, there has
times
been a couple of
over.
new different
We're
stories
doing what we can.
today,
Right.
which we are going to go over. Looking still at this midfield, which does seem to be obviously an area of concern and interest for Manchester United. There's a couple of different angles. So one is from sort of friend of the channel, who's not been on for a while, but still a friend of the channel, Rob Dawson,
Your mate.
over at ESPN, talking about how it's unlikely that United will sign a big midfielder in January. But then there's been other sort of stories talking about the likelihood of getting Elliot Anderson, someone who isn't mentioned in that Rob Dawson article, and a few other players as well, Baleba, Stiller, Wharton as well. So we're going to go through some of those options. And also, speaking to Laurie last week, he said the latest he's hearing is that, he didn't say we're going to sign a big player in January, but he said a few weeks ago, I thought it was almost guaranteed that United wouldn't. It seems maybe slightly more likely now than it did then. So he's not saying, bring it on, and he's not directly contradicting, or he's contradicting, but he's not come out and said anything against Rob Dawson or the validity of that article or what he's heard. But it is kind of little bits of things coming from different directions. So we're going to go through some of those players, some of the youngsters as well that can step in and help out in that position, maybe during AFCON as well, with you being here, Finn. And a little look at what's going on with Carlos Baleba. Because there's an interesting political game unfolding here, and
love a bit of
Harvey
politics.
of Socials Harvey, aka producer Harvey, depending on what show he's on, has had a bit of a sort of noticed a little pattern with him that we're going to explore. It's quite exciting, isn't it? Let's start though with, I think, this Rob Dawson article, because he's talking about the United sort of general sort of method of reducing the wage bill and the players that United are looking to bring in. So we've got Wharton, Baleba, Angelo Stiller as well. I know we've spoken a lot about these guys generally, but Jay, would you be willing to wait till the summer to get one of these players, or do you think, let's say we're 6th or 7th January, would you want to push on and try and go up the table this season?
I think that's a good question, because I think a lot will depend on where United are into how you approach this.
Yeah.
I think if United was sort of there or thereabouts in Champions League spaces, you might look at it and go, look, if we were to spend, and if we can raise the funds to spend big in January to bring someone in, and it's doable, like their club is willing to let them go, and that helps get us over the line, then is it worth it? You'd probably argue it is. If, however, it's one way or the other, where you're not really near the Champions League spaces, or we can dream, you guaranteed it, you're sort of safe in 3rd or whatever, and there's a big gap between you and 4th and 5th, then you might go, look, we'll be all right. But as it stands now, from all the noises we've heard, and I know Laurie sort of added a little bit more intrigue in his chat with you, but it does feel as though if we were to bring someone in January, it wouldn't be one of those big signings that you mentioned. It wouldn't be a Baleba or a Wharton or an Elliot Anderson. It might be a bit more of a stopgap now. Until recently, I thought that might be Conor Gallagher. I'm not a big fan of that move, but it seemed like one that was doable. Atletico Madrid sort of would be willing to let him go. Could be a loan move. Do you get him in just for a bit of legs in midfield until the summer, and then you go all out for a Baleba or whoever else you really want? Now though, I'm not so sure. I don't know what the thinking is, and it just feels like every day it's one twist or it's another one. Where if you'd asked me a few days ago, I think Conor Gallagher's looking likely. Then we hear more reports that actually United aren't really looking at him. So it is difficult. Finn can fill us in on who he feels from the academy, if anyone could step in. But I do worry that the drop-off when Casemiro comes off is there. And how do you address that? Because Casemiro is going to be 34 in February.
Yeah.
He isn't, as it stands, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
That's
He isn't, as it stands, finishing most games. I think he finished at the City ground, and that was a bit of a one-off. So do you need legs either way? I'm not so sure. I don't know. Or is there a way of moving things around with what we've already got to make it work? Because the big sort of elephant in the room that we all know about is AFCON. And I know we're not losing a midfielder as such, but we are losing basically three first team players.
Yeah.
3 players who would...
Very good ones.
Yeah, who would, I think we could all agree they're players we all love. In Ahmad, Mbumo and Mazraoui. You're going to lose them. So do you need to be as solid elsewhere as you can be? And are you without a signing? I'm not so sure. Sorry, Finn.
Just in terms of whether it's worth bringing a bigger midfielder in January, I think you could argue if you were sure that, say, an Anderson or a Wharton or a Baleba would get you into those top 4 spaces or top 5, convincingly, then I think it would almost pay for itself with the difference in Champions League qualification. An extra 80 million, something like that you get from it. I think you could argue it would pay for itself. It would allow you to then continue to reinvest more in the summer. A lot of journalists have kind of suggested that United are hoping for 2 major signings, not necessarily in January, but at some point in the next year or so, 2 major midfield signings to be the focus of our recruitment. So I think if the opportunity is there, and obviously at the moment it's really difficult to tell if it is, I would think it would make a lot of sense to push for that, give yourself some confidence and continue the momentum of actually being able to push for these Champions League spots, or else you risk, like we've said, Casemiro could easily get injured. The depth isn't fantastic there. We're dealing with other departures from the squad in AFCON. I think it would just shore up the squad a little bit. And so I think if the opportunity is there, I'd really like to see us push for it.
I want to talk about Conor Gallagher a little bit more. Because he's a weird one, isn't he, where he doesn't really excite you, particularly as a name. But then he's Premier League proven. He is someone that you would probably be able to get on loan, which the others almost certainly wouldn't be. I can't imagine where we get Baleba on loan unless there's an obligation to buy and there's some weird thing going on. But he's a bit of an odd one, Gallagher, because he's a decent player. Always looked decent for Chelsea, I thought. Never a world beater by any means, but a decent player. But then goes to Atletico and just it doesn't really work. It's not. It's like
It's weird because he's such an Atletico player, isn't he?
Yeah. It seemed like it was sort of made for him over there. Like I think last season he actually had a deceptively high number of appearances. I'm going to get the exact numbers up for Atletico, because it was one of those where it's like, he can't get a game from him, he's terrible, and you look and he played most games. He played 32 games, 50 in all competitions, and has already played 16 for Atletico this season. I don't know, they weren't all starts and 90 minutes 100%, but he's clearly a incredibly active part of their squad. He's not, being left at home when they're going and playing games. He plays almost every game for him in one way, shape or form. Would you have him? Do you like him? I know we spoke about him a little bit last week, didn't we? But
I don't hate the player.
Yeah.
I do feel like it would be underwhelming if it were in lieu of a Baleba or an Anderson or someone like that.
Yeah.
I think I would happily accept a loan in January, but without an obligation. I think it would be one where let's bring him in, give the squad a little bit of depth, again, give us a little push on to push for top 4, but almost leave it at that. If he does well, explore it in the summer, maybe, at a good fee, but it's not one that gets you out of your seat. It's not a really exciting one, and he's certainly not got the ceiling of some of these other players that we're discussing. He's a little bit older, which is fine, brings experience, but it's not, you don't go crazy for it, do you?
No. Glenn F in the comments says, Finn, surely there's players in the academy. That's something I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Obviously, shorter term, I say short term, it'd be a similar term, but it's sort of a definitive thing. We are losing these players to the African Cup of Nations. I want to talk about the World Cup qualifiers as well a little bit later on. We are losing those 3 players for at least a couple of weeks, you'd assume, maybe up to around sort of 3 or 4 weeks, depending on how well they do. Annoyingly, I don't know the sides of the draw, or actually whether it's done sort of predetermined, whether even Cameroon and Ivory Coast or Morocco can play each other in the final. I don't know, but let's assume they all go quite far. You can't guarantee transfers. We know who we've got in the academy. Mm-hmm. That's sort of safe. Yeah. I think Sekou Kone is just coming back from an injury.
Just returned, and to be fair, he's looking quite good for Mali.
Yeah. Who do you like in that sort of attacking 10, right wing back or wing back / centre back role that Mazraoui occupies? Is there anyone you think can fit in?
I think in terms of a more offensive option, you've got players like Jack Fletcher, who's usually kind of the creative spark for his sides. I think Jim Thwaites is superb in kind of any of those roles. But you have to consider the fact that Amorim is looking for someone who can really cover ground and be a physical presence. And to be fair, I'm not sure any of the options in the academy fit that role like a glove.
Right.
I think someone like Jacob Devaney is good if you want a destroyer who can do a lot of the defensive work, not necessarily be the most progressive, but still, useful on the ball. I think Sekou Kone is a very good all-rounder and is probably as close as you'll get to the athletic and physical demands that Amorim is looking for in one of the midfielders. He's not super strong, but he's
quite slight,
he's slight, but he's
Yeah.
robust,
Okay.
and he's very mobile, gets around the pitch quickly, and is intelligent in how he defends. So there's quite a mix and match, and there's quite a wealth of options in terms of different profiles there. But I don't think there's one clear standout that you go and you say, right, well, that is someone who can obviously fill in and obviously step up to the task. So it really depends who you're partnering them with and what specific profile you're looking for.
Not to try and criticise the academy, because obviously I don't want to do that, but why do you think we are at a stage where, so often, Steve mentions this a lot, we always think of the players getting a chance and the academy players being brought through. And other than, rare examples like Mason Greenwood's one where it was always going to happen and it was sort of nurtured and brought through the right way. But most of the time it's someone got injured and then their replacement got a hamstring injury and we need someone. And that's how Rashford made his debut. That's how so many make their debut. If we're in a situation where we know we're going to be struggling and a little bit short, how are we at a point where this academy that's done so well over the last couple of years doesn't have any obvious people to chuck in there? Is that, I think, a bit of a failure in a way? And not to be too harsh, but do you know what I mean?
It depends how you look at it, because I think the main reason for that is probably because one of the clearest differences that we've seen with United's squad since Amorim came in, and one of his key focuses has been bringing up the physical levels of the squad.
Okay.
We're now a team that goes to win second and third balls as one of our main objectives in a game. I think you could say that we've gone from being physically one of the weaker sides in the Premier League to now one of the strongest. We don't suffer physically or in terms of stamina throughout a game and fitness. Those levels look really good, and so I think the level for an academy player to jump to that is now there's a higher demand there.
Okay.
So previously, where our physical levels haven't been so good, I think it's been easier for a younger player to come in and not be so far off it. But the demands, I think, are higher in that regard. I don't think it's a technical thing, because the technical level of some of these younger players is superb, as good as what we've got in a lot of our first team players, I'd say. But I just think that the demands that Amorim puts on the physicality and athleticism are so high that it's difficult to make that jump at the moment.
And more than we saw when the managers who would have been around when we brought a lot of these players to the club 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, I think
asked for.
Look at Ten Hag, for example. He brought through someone like Kobbie Mainoo, who physicality and athleticism isn't really his strength. And that's part of the reason that he's not playing at the moment. I think generally fitness and athleticism was a big issue under Ten Hag. It wasn't really a focus, and there wasn't a clear plan in terms of bringing those levels up. So I just think that that's been such a clear change, and it's kind of making it it's proving a bit of a barrier to entry. Yeah.
Should we talk about Baleba?
Yes.
Because we were chatting about this before, weren't we? About could January be a good time to go for him? Because we were looking at Fabrizio Romano, who mentioned Carlos Baleba a little bit the other day, saying that Baleba is United's priority for the summer still. The agents' talks are ongoing. The player's still very keen about joining Manchester United. He said the personal terms will be easy. No January deal, but rebound expected post-dip after he sort of started poorly. So maybe it won't happen in January. But just in terms of him, it feels like the public opinion on him, Jay, has absolutely shifted 180 since the middle of the summer. I remember when we were first linked with him, everyone lost their minds. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, we've got Cunha, we're going to go for Baleba as well. What is going on?
I honestly thought it was going to happen.
Yeah, he's meant to be. He's the best young centre mid in the world, was how he was being spoken about. And since then, Elliot Anderson has 100% surpassed him in terms of current reputation. Not talking about quality, but just how he's perceived. I think Adam Wharton sort of probably is now above him as well in terms of what people think. And there's a few other names that have come in. We've seen Angelo Stillo, we've seen others as well. But whenever you say Carlos Baleba, people go, oh, not after the season he's had. And yet we see this from Fabrizio Romano. We were talking before, he hasn't got that long left to turn this around. I know we're only early in the season, but he's I think Cameroon, as of last week, aren't going to the World Cup. So he hasn't got this like summer tournament to put things on. Yeah, he is going to go to AFCON, which again we don't always think of as being the best sort of. Let's see how he does there to see if he's
not a good shot window.
Yeah,
no, of all due respect, but
yeah,
it's not usually a tournament where people go, he's done well at AFCON, let's spend £100 million on him.
Yeah,
they can be doing well for the club and do well at AFCON, but he's not doing well for his club at the minute.
Yeah,
I mean, the more this continues, the less likely I think the Carlos Baleba deal is to happen. I know Fabrizio Romano is kind of repeating what he's already said.
Yeah.
And I think we were talking earlier and saying, this sounds like an agent sort of reminding everyone that don't worry about my client. He's still keen on move to United, and United are keen on a move for him. But this is a player who this season hasn't had many good games. He failed his audition. I know that sounds harsh, but against United, I don't think he was particularly good. Whereas you look at someone like
compare
Elliot Anderson, who did very well against us. Baleba, underwhelmed for me, and you know me, I don't sort of watch loads of football, so a lot of it I'll judge off what I've seen. And when I've seen Baleba this season, I haven't really been that amazed, and I was kind of struggling to see what a lot of the hype is, although he's had much better seasons prior to this one. Then you've got the AFCON thing. You've got to remember as well, the AFCON thing is going to probably be more relevant to United at the minute, because we've just spoken about how we're going to lose three key players in AFCON.
Yeah,
and you were mentioning earlier that AFCON is every 2 years, because we were just saying there's been a sort of weird thing with AFCON, hasn't there, where there was it 4 in 6 at one point, because they did like the centenary and all the rest of it that you were talking about earlier. Now United are looking at it and going, right, you've got a kid who it's going to cost £100 million, or there or thereabouts, according to most reports, and the way Brighton are sort of playing hardball and have done in the past with certain players. I know McAllister was a lot less, but he had a buyout clause. Baleba hasn't got one. And you look at what they did with Casado, for example. So it's going to cost you £100 million, just say for the sake of argument. He's having a poor season. He is going to be missing every other year at a crucial part of the season, whilst we're already missing 3 of our key players.
Yeah.
So if you put Carlos Baleba in the mix and he becomes a player that you're relying on, and then you go, right, next time AFCON comes around, you're going to lose one of your best midfielders, you're going to lose one of your best defenders, you're going to lose one of your either best number 10s or best wing backs, and one of the best attackers in the league. That doesn't seem too attractive, does it? It just feels like the reasons not to sign him are stacking up against the reasons to sign him. Now, as you pointed out, it's November. This guy could have a good game at the weekend and opinion could change. Yeah, he could smash it at the weekend, get man of the match, and people go, yeah. And then he could help Brighton move up the table, put in a load of good performances,
win the AFCON with Cameroon,
win the AFCON, and all of a sudden, Carlos Baleba is the guy.
Yeah.
But at the minute, he ain't showing that. And even the reasons that we're sort of thinking he ain't showing it, I think his manager sort of alluded to the idea that his head has been turned a little bit. And that's troubling for me, because it shouldn't be. I get it's a massive move to go to Manchester United, and understandably that's going to affect your mindset. But you should still be able to perform at a consistent level for your club. And he hasn't really been doing that. And that is a little bit worrying. Now, we've sort of said it in jest, or maybe he's just trying to lower his value so United will. But let's be real, he ain't doing that. He's not deliberately going out and playing poorly so United will pay
and
less
if he
for it.
is,
that's idiotic.
Don't do that.
I also don't think Brighton are the type of club who will fold and lower their demands that much, depending on performances. I think.
Well, look at Evan Ferguson. Isn't he still like 50 million as a
well, he was a good example.
50?
We were speaking about him before, weren't we? And there was a time when Evan Ferguson was being spoken about genuinely as an £80 million attacker.
Sorry,
you got that
£3 million loan fee with a £40 million option to buy, but he's barely played in football for 2 years.
So he scores it hat-trick against Newcastle, I want to say. Do you remember that time where that was probably his peak value?
Yeah,
he was playing well for Ireland. He scored a hat-trick in the Premier League against Newcastle, a good team, and you can't dismiss that. I think he was 18 years old at the time, and people are going, right, there's a striker that could feasibly play the next 12, 13, 14 years in the Premier League. 80 million quid for him doesn't seem that far-fetched. And I think had United or anyone else gone and made that deal at the time, people would have gone, bit of a gamble, but I get it.
Yeah.
And it now look very silly. Because no disrespect to the kid, and he might turn it around. I don't want to dismiss him. He's still in his early 20s. But he's not lived up to the hype at all.
No.
And there's a danger that could happen with Baleba, where you could take that punt and go, all right, he's having a bit of one, and yes, you are going to miss him AFCON, and okay, but we know what he's capable of. We've seen a lot of good games from him. Let's just do it. And then you're doing what we said wasn't going to happen under Ineos, which is buying players for massive amounts of money when you're not quite sure on them. The reason you buy a Premier League player is because you know they perform consistently in the Premier League, i.e. Mateus Cunha, i.e. Brian Mbeumo. This kid's not doing that. So it sort of negates the idea of why you need to get him as a Premier League player, because he ain't playing well at the minute in the Premier League. And if he is going to be that signing in in the summer, or one of them, he needs to do a lot more. I know, Finn, you watched a lot more of him. I know you and Carl Anker have been on the same page. He's a player that, in theory, is perfect for this system. Yeah. But what have you made of him?
I do think it's a little bit troubling, especially the fact that it's clearly a mental issue happening. It's not his physical levels haven't dropped, and that's one of the biggest positives of his game. You do have to wonder whether he's got the bottle to kind of cope with all the press and all the talk that would be around him as a Manchester United player. I mean, what we're seeing now, the dip in form, is just from transfer rumours. It's not. He's not even played for us. But that being said, and we've talked about a lot of the negatives and a lot of the reasons not to buy him, I do think he has a skill set and he has certain abilities that Wharton and Anderson will never be able to reach in the physical levels, the kind of ball carrying. I think that there are certain parts of his game that stand him out as a proper potential world-class midfielder if he can regain his form. And I just think, again, if we're looking at an Amorim midfielder, his profile is exactly what you want. So I'm still very pro Baleba. Obviously, I would like it to not be such a high fee. I don't think that's really possible. I think United may have settled on the fact that, right, we're going after him. We don't care about the form. We know what he can do. We know what the scouts think. We're just going to go for it because we believe in his talent and we believe in the potential. I think the ideal scenario is that you get him and then you get one of Anderson and Wharton who bring other abilities and are also definitely more reliable and have less risk associated with them.
To be fair, there was a time when Caicedo looked like a underwhelming signing for Chelsea. Briefly.
I think the first 12 months it was
all right, maybe not as brief, but there was a time when people going, really? Oh, you overspent on him, he's not that guy. And now he looks unreal. Whenever you watch him, he just looks like phenomenal. Even going, defensively and going forward, he's just got sort of that all-round game that a lot of modern midfielders don't have. I've been really impressed with him this season when I've watched him. And I was impressed with him at Brighton. And he, like you say, when Chelsea first bought him, the Scousers were loving it because it was like, he's turned us down, he's been crap, and we're going to win the league and all the rest of it. So it can happen where a player can have a dip, like you say, and then sort of regain his mojo. What just concerns me a little bit is you do get some players, like Bissouma was one, where people were on him, this is the guy, he's going to be mint. And you could see what he could do. You saw it even in a Spurs shirt against United, where he had that absolute storming game a year or two ago. But on the whole, he just wasn't quite as good as everyone thought he was going to be. And there was a time when I remember we used to cover the story of him being at United and everyone was on it. And I remember watching him at Old Trafford and being underwhelmed. And I think you just got to be a little bit more careful, because if you spend 100 million on Baleba, that's obviously money you ain't spending elsewhere. And there's no guarantees, but I just want something a bit more of a guarantee. Because like when Arsenal went big with Rice, everyone knew what Rice was going to do at Arsenal. You knew that, didn't you?
It's quite a nailed-on success.
It was, wasn't it?
Like, so you don't think about the price at that point.
There was no one going, he'll be crap there. It was, is he worth that? And they were like, and then you think, well, we know what he's going to do and what we need. He is. To be fair to him, I think he's done exactly what it says on the tin. I don't think he's surprised anyone or disappointed anyone. I think he's just been Declan Rice at Arsenal, what we all know he's capable of. So I just don't know if it's a gamble United could take. The more I'm seeing this season, and I don't want to be all flavour of the month because I've been impressed with him ever since I watched him at Palace, is Wharton. I think he does. I get your point, Finn. It's a valid one about a different type of player and how Baleba is more suited. But Wharton, one thing I really like about him is the intelligence he shows. And also, Keano mentioned it last night after the England game. I didn't watch all the England game, I watched a bit of it. Keane was sort of complimenting him on his bravery with the ball. wanting to push it forward, wanting to not always look for the easy pass. And he's a player that's sort of gone like that, hasn't he? Quite consistently, from the time at Blackburn to getting into the Palace side. So just keeps going. Now he's starting for England. Yeah. And it's just been this upward, almost sort of straight line trajectory. And he seems to just have a level head on his shoulders and doing the right thing. So, I don't know, man.
He was another player that United could have signed when he was at Blackburn.
I wish I'd listened to you, because I no doubt you'd have been all over that.
Yeah, I think Andy Mitten revealed that United were offered the chance to sign him for 8 million or something like that when he was at Blackburn. He was also talking to Palace, obviously, and a few other clubs. And United turned up the opportunity and said, he doesn't seem ready yet. We're gonna look for other options. I think it would have been the season before we signed Ugarte. But yeah, he's another one that went under the radar and that we missed out on.
Tough, isn't it?
I mean, for that, not to ignore that or justify it, because it's massively frustrating. His development at Palace has been handled well.
Yeah.
And he's
no guarantee
he's playing in a great team.
And
playing every minute almost. Won a trophy there, been a big part of that trophy win. Confidence, atmosphere, everything is just sky high. Just developed nicely. Not the same level of scrutiny that you see at Manchester United. Just, we don't know, do you? You could have come at United, not had the chances you've got at Palace, stagnated a little bit, which is what my concern with Kobbie Mainoo is his career going to get hurt by having a season where he's gone from 32 games, 34 games to no starts in the Premier League so far this season. The progression at Blackburn and then Palace for Wharton has been second to none, so you don't know, but it is a little bit.
I think ultimately the ideal scenario is that you get a Wharton and a Baleba though.
Yeah.
Because you minimise the risk through having a more reliable player in Wharton. I think they're two very, very special midfielders in different ways, and I think if you paired them in a midfield too, obviously that raises the question as to what happens to Bruno and Casemiro in the next couple of years. But I just think United have the opportunity to build a midfield that we should have had for so many years. We haven't had it's been a glaring issue in our squad for so many years now, and I think we've got a chance to do something really special in the next couple of windows.
With Baleba and sort of players more of his profile, where I would say he's obviously a very good footballer, far better than anyone I've ever played with or been around, because he's playing for Brighton, but his emphasis is less on his technical ability and more on compared to someone like Elliot Anderson, who is 70, 80, 90 passes a game. Would you agree with that? Or have
I wouldn't say that Anderson is superior to Baleba technically, but I think he's got a different way of approaching the game. So he's been trained and he desires to be a high volume passer and someone who has a lot of usage on the ball. I think Baleba's game is more about I think Baleba is more intent on playing forward quite quickly. Right. He'll either decide to recycle it quite simply, or he'll look to play a killer pass, a big switch, or something like that. I think Baleba technically is as good as anyone you'll find pretty much. Maybe not an Adam Wharton, because I think he's absolutely world class in that department. But I certainly don't think. I'm not saying you said it's a weakness or anything like that for him, but I do think he's probably better technically than many people would associate him with.
So do you think that, because and just to compare him to Ugarte, not that they are the same player by any means, but if we're thinking of the two profiles Amorim seems to like, he likes a more defensive, kind of robust player in a Casemiro or a Ugarte, and alongside that would be a Bruno or a Mainoo or maybe a Wharton or whatever. I know Wharton can do a bit of everything, and Bruno gets loads of defensive contributions and all that. I know it's not completely black and white, but I would assume Baleba would be playing the more physical, kind of up and down athletic type player that Casemiro or Ugarte plays. Do you think that, because when I look across other teams, a lot of teams, like when you think of Ugarte and his limitations on the ball, most teams, top teams, don't actually have a player that's not great on the ball, because you can't. Like look at City, over the last few years, who's their midfielder that's not that good on the ball? They've never had one. And even their defensive player is Rodri, who might be the best on the ball of all of them in terms of decision making and composure and all that. Look at Arsenal now. I guess Thomas Partey would have been there last season, but he's someone that was maybe a bit of a limiter in terms of how they played and that sort of thing on the ball, and it was still technically good, but he's not, a Zubimendi in terms of control and composure. And then you look at Liverpool, I guess they're a bit more, they've got the leggy men, McAllister and Gravenberch doing up and down, but they're still very technically sound. Do you think that someone like Ugarte, or again, maybe I'm wrong putting Baleba in that category even, when you're relying on people in tight spaces 40, 50, 60 times a game, do you think the idea of having a more technical and a more physical player, does that work, do you think?
I think it works, but it's not necessarily the ideal long-term view of Amorim. I think what they're looking at is having two midfielders who can do both sides.
Do everything, yeah.
And I think the difference in Wharton and Baleba, if we're going to compare the two, I know Anderson's in the mix as well. I think both are capable of defending large spaces for different reasons. So I think Baleba, mainly because of his athletic prowess, to put it blank, he can just cover the ground. I think Wharton is also effective covering those larger spaces, despite not being a great athlete, because he has the kind of defensive know-how of where to position himself and how to read the game properly. Yeah. So I think what we'll see is that United will try to recruit two players where it's not necessarily, well, one's the destroyer, one's going to cover the ground, and one's going to be the defensive player, and then the other's going to be the technical playmaker or whatever. Obviously, out of the two, Baleba stands out as the more defensive, but I think ideally, especially playing in midfield too, both players can do both sides to a high level. You kind of need two players
that are just great at everything, don't you?
Yeah.
Which is really difficult to
be
find.
Fair, and I think that's why you're paying these kind of premiums and the fees associated, because I think all three of these main players we're talking about here can do both sides of that game quite well.
Like you said with Caicedo. Like, he's someone that obviously his defensive, just innate defensive nous is world class.
Fantastic.
Like, he just knows where to be. But when he's on the ball, you don't go, oh, he's gonna give it away.
He's
and he seems to have added that to his game more and more. So you need people that can do everything at all times, especially when you've only got two. But that makes it so much more difficult to find those players, doesn't it? Because you can't go with, he's limited, but he'll get covered up by this guy and this guy. You sort of have to have all-rounders that can do everything.
It does feel like, I know this might sound proper insane, but almost refreshing that it's like, you're looking at it, you're going, okay, you could argue maybe we need another wing back or maybe we need a backup striker, but it just feels like United could be in a position where we could actually do that and get those two midfielders. Yeah. Because you think about it and you go, okay, let's say, for example, Marcus Rashford, who I think has got 7 assists and 6 goals in 16 games for Barcelona or whatever it is, doing very well there. Rasmus Højlund's been a little bit more up and down than people would want to say at Napoli, but there's a good chance that loan becomes permanent. That could be 70, 80 million quid coming in. If you were to, say, decide to sell your guy or one of the, God forbid, but probably Manu or whoever, you sell another one of the midfielders, that could be another 50 million quid. You could have 100 odd million quid in just from transfers. And then you'd have money as well, you'd think, that United would have in the summer. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that United could go out and spend 150, 160 million on two midfielders. And you think, if you actually did that, you'd look at it and you'd go, that team, the goalkeeper's looking much better. Back three, I think, was sorted. Yes, wing backs, it's not perfect, but there's options there. Dorgu and Ahmad and Delo, and maybe, I think you spoke about someone like Benito Mantato coming in as another option maybe next season. You're looking at it, you go, okay, front-wise, we know, and Mbeumo, Cunha, Sesko, Mount.
Yeah. It's kind of what we did this summer. We just said, right, well, we've clearly got weaknesses up front. Let's just funnel all of our funds and all of our resources into these positions. We're not going to skimp on these signings. We're going to go for our prime targets.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to do the same thing for the midfield, which we obviously need to do so much.
So that would be like, if you look at it, man, United's out and sorted the midfield out. It's doable, isn't it? It is. And then you'd look at it as a starting 11 especially, and even with a bit more of the squad, and go, you know what, that's not looking too shabby. It's not perfect. You probably need more, but it's not far off. And you look at other teams around us, you go, actually, I'd fancy us going toe-to-toe with most teams if we made those signings.
I think you'd then reach a point with the squad where it wouldn't be complete per se, but you'd be at a point where you'd start looking for the more luxury options to add. So, right, we don't have any really clear weaknesses. Where can we get an absolutely...
Maybe we need another centre-back.
Yeah, and where can we look for someone that's, a real kind of premium upgrade rather than which gap do we need to fill?
Yeah.
Which would be a really nice place to be at, from a squad building perspective, because it feels like for the last however many summers, every year it's, right, well, we have this clear gap and this clear gap and this clear gap, and you maybe fill one or two of them and then another comes up. We might be at a point where our squad feels quite complete, and we can actually look to raise the ceiling rather than the floor.
Because that's what Arsenal, I think, have done over the last 2 or 3 seasons. Absolutely. Each summer they've gone, we've got a really good team, but if we've been picky, Martinelli doesn't quite, tick every single box. We'll get, what's his name? The winger that they bought this season.
Madueke or
Madueke, yeah. They've got Eze as well, because he might not necessarily do it. Havertz is good. I think he got 15 league goals, which is decent, but we want to go for Gyökeres because we think potentially you can outscore him, which we'll find out.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean. And then we've got a good defence, but let's get Calafiori in, let's get Timber in anyway. You know, and I think they've just been topping up. Like we said, Partey, who knows why he left Arsenal? You know, I'm not going to get into that, but Zubimendi will help us control games a little bit more. We can, you know, and rather than like you said at United, it's like, why haven't we signed this?
Yeah.
Look at this massive hole. These don't make sense. He's out of position. You can actually go, we've got 11 players there that all work, just like you've said. Let's build on that. I think that's a really good point. Zarul Chowdhury in the super chat says, here's a fun game for you.
Well, love games, mate.
Name Sir Alex Ferguson's most used 11 by appearances in a 4-4-2. Who can get it right? I mean, you're going to have to come back and tell us if we got it right, but we can guess. I'm gonna guess Schmeichel.
Yeah, I think you're right, because Van der Sar wasn't anyway. I think Schmeichel was, 91 to 99.
Right back's easy, obviously Neville.
Left back would be Dennis Irwin.
And then I think it must be Rio Ferdinand. And maybe...
Would Vidic be there, or...?
I don't know. 2005 to 2013.
Probably. How long was Bruce in Palace there for?
Bruce is 87 to 96, I think.
Okay.
You're both going to be much better.
Pallister never missed any games.
Pallister played, what was it, all but one games in back-to-back seasons.
Yeah.
When it was 42 games a season, I think, as well.
How long was he there for?
He was there from, I think, 89 to 96.
Probably Pallister then.
Pallister or Bruce?
Yeah, I'm just wondering with Bruce for the last couple of seasons. I'd maybe go Bruce.
Okay, let's go Bruce.
Scholes, Keane.
Left back?
Irwin.
More than ever, you think?
Oh, I'd say so. I mean, Irwin was what? 1990
to 2000?
2002, was it? 2001?
Yeah.
11 years.
Playing regularly, yeah.
And then Evra's 2005 to 2013. So it's close.
Yeah.
I'd probably go Irwin, personally.
Okay. That would make sense. Midfield?
Giggs, Keane, Scholes. Would it be Beckham?
I'd definitely go Giggs, Keane and Scholes. I think you're right there. Beckham.
Do you think...
96 to 2003.
Definitely wouldn't be Ronaldo.
Could be Giggs. Could be Beckham.
Yeah, it could be Beckham, couldn't it? What's that, 8 years, 7 years?
And playing, I know he fell.
Is there anyone that would have played a lot of games across the front four that you could put there?
I'm trying to think who else you would have. Ronaldo didn't play enough, obviously.
No.
Rooney, you won't put a right mid.
I'd maybe put him up front.
Yeah.
Thinking about, like, Eric was 7 years and obviously missed some of it.
When did Keane arrive? 93?
End of
left in 2005.
Season, yeah. So I think you're right.
It's got to be him there.
I think you put him.
Someone mentioned Carrick, but Carrick was only 2006 to 2013, wasn't it? Under Ferguson, this is.
Yeah.
I know Carrick stayed obviously after. Okay, who's in right mid then? Beckham.
I think probably
will have been.
Yeah, I think
300 odd games or so.
Yeah, I think that's a decent shout.
Most games each season that he was there.
And then front two would have to be surely Rooney and Cantona.
Would Cantona be in it though?
Cantona's
7 years.
End of 92, beginning of 93.
Not Rooney and Cole.
To 97. I don't know if I think it'd be Rooney.
Andy Cole.
Someone mentioned McClare, 11 years.
McClare, Chucky, yeah. He's a good, because he was 80. Yeah, Chucky, what? For second signing ever. To
86 to what, 95?
Something like 90. I
think regularly.
96. Yeah, not playing regularly, yeah, I think. I think you can maybe go Chucky. I think that's not a bad shout.
So we'll go Schmeichel, Neville, Rio, Bruce, Irwin, Giggs, Keane, Scholes, Beckham, Rooney, McClare. Wow. How many points does that get?
Can we get confirmation from someone?
I don't know.
Yeah, let us know.
Let's see how close we were with that one.
How close we were to that. Yeah, let us know in the comments. Zarul, please, if we've got that right. I think we're almost ready for Wally of the Week, but maybe not just yet. One last thing in terms of midfielders. We haven't really mentioned Elliot Anderson much today. 2 articles have come out today. One is that United are after him, one is that we're not. So who knows? One was both relatively reliable. One was Rob Dawson, break. And one was in the Telegraph. What's his name?
Is it Amit Ducker?
No, it was Joyce.
James Joyce.
Percy. Percy, sorry, not James Joyce. Percy in the Telegraph. Reliable.
Yes.
You two haven't mentioned him as much today. Not
Elliot
keen.
Anderson.
Don't like him. Not don't like him, but don't prefer him.
No, I mean, go on, Finn. Sorry.
I would absolutely love him. I think he would offer so much that United need in the midfield too. I think the only reason that I'm not as keen on him as I would be in terms of getting like Baleba and Wharton is because they both strike me as being top level specialists in what they do. I think they have unique abilities that kind of set them apart from other players. Maybe this is unfair on Anderson because he almost does everything to such a high level.
Yeah.
But Wharton's passing, I think, puts him amongst the best in the world, and he will be for the next
as in
generation.
Passing range and passing quality. Because in terms of raw numbers, I think Anderson completes more passes.
Yeah, completes a higher volume of passes,
Yeah.
but I think the creativity side of Wharton's passing and the range in terms of his long passing, also the kind of intangibles in terms of his timing and releases and things like that, I think are pretty much impeccable. And then Baleba's athletic prowess and ball carrying and stuff. I think these are specialisms that set them apart from other potential signings, whereas Anderson is kind of a jack of all trades, but to be fair, doing those trades at a very, very high level. So
yeah.
I'd love any of the three. I'm not going to be picky, to be honest, but Wharton and Baleba would be my ideal two.
What do you make of Anderson?
Yeah, I mean, again, been very impressed with him. I like the fact he's shown a bit of resilience with his career as well. You know what I mean? It's not all
gone out and been on loan.
Yeah, it's not all just been in a way that Wharton's is. I know, I'm not saying all these players haven't shown resilience. Of course they have, but Wharton has been like a sort of almost perfect trajectory where Elliot Anderson has had maybe the odd sort of almost false start where it's like, is he quite getting where he needs to be? And then now he's, the flavour of the month, isn't it? Everyone loves him, and rightly so. And again,
I mean, even Newcastle selling him.
Yeah,
I know that they'll say they had to sell him, which I would argue with anyway.
Well,
but
that's bollocks,
the fact that they chose to sell him, even though for 35 million, which is a good chunk of money for someone that was relatively inexperienced, but he was sold by the club that he came through at. He was, they said you've got to go. So that, like you said, is a hurdle that you need to overcome mentally, isn't it? 100%.
Of course it is, and it's got to be deflating and not your confidence and not nice as well, for want of a better expression. But he's come through that, and now Newcastle are probably looking at going, Jesus, what we could do with him. Yeah. Like, what are they, 12th or whatever? I know Nottingham Forest aren't exactly doing well in the league, but you put Elliot Anderson in that Newcastle team, and I think they'd be much, much better. So I've been impressed with him, very impressed with him against us. He was annoying me massively, just everywhere.
I think his performance was certainly better than Baleba's.
Yeah, it was.
He was excellent.
100%.
Yeah. And controlled the game.
He did.
Which United midfielders haven't done for a long time.
Yeah. So I honestly don't think, right, if we were to get two midfielders, I don't think there's a combo I'd be disappointed if it was any of those three.
I think any of them.
I wouldn't be like, I can't believe. I know I've sort of questioned the Baleba signing a bit today, but I wouldn't be devastated if we bought him. I'm not going to pretend. I'd be a little bit worried that 100 million, is he going to, is he going to be as good as he can be? But I'd be happy. And again, Wharton and Anderson, there's very few flaws if you look at them. It's not like there's a couple where you go, maybe they don't quite fit as well as whatever, but they're such good players. And this is like, reminds me a little bit of United of old. We were just having a debate there about the players that have played the most under Fergie. How many of those players were the best player at their club when we went and got them? Do you know what I mean? So it was like Roy Keane at Forest, Will Avion. Yeah, you mentioned Michael Carrick, Spurs.
Rio Ferdinand at Leeds.
Rio Ferdinand at Leeds.
I mean, it's exactly what we did this summer gone by, and it's why we've taken such a jump in terms of attacking quality.
And Bumo, and
look, can't really go wrong with that.
No, look at not just the fact we got the best players from their clubs, but also who else wanted him? Spurs, Newcastle wanted basically our entire front three. Yeah, I don't think there's a combination I'd be disappointed in, to be honest with you. If we got two midfielders out of those three, I'd be very happy.
We've got some bad news for you.
Go on, did we get it drastically wrong?
We got one wrong. Only one.
Oh, was it the striker?
No, it's one that we debated.
Oh, Beckham?
No.
Bruce.
Correct.
Pallister.
Yeah. Oh, was it Gary Pallister?
It was Gary Pallister.
That's my
416. It's mad though. If I told someone Brian McClare is the highest appearance making striker under Sir Alex Ferguson.
Ahead of Rooney.
So Rooney was 402, McClare was 441.
To be fair,
that's mental, isn't it?
It is. To 441 and 117 goals.
Not a bad return.
I've done a lot of Q&As with Brian McClare.
Yeah.
I think with Shockey's played a lot in midfield, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not obviously that is amazing.
And played pre-Premier League.
Yeah.
Which hurts people in terms of what numbers and
the summer of '87.
Yeah.
So literally, Viv Anderson beat him to sign in. Literally, both stood at the table. Anderson signed first.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, it is mad. People want.
What's even more mad? I know we all know this, but just as a reminder, someone like Rooney played 402 games under Ferguson's obviously played more in total. Neville played 602, which is like one of the most to ever play for Manchester United, like one of the most appearances ever for Manchester United. Dennis Irwin, ever present for a decade or more, 516 games. Ryan Giggs played 941 games for Manchester United. I know we all know he played for ages and he played till he was 41 and all that stuff. Like, we all know this. But he played 339 games more than Gary Neville. He had a world-class career's number of games more than Gary Neville, who was here for 25 years or whatever it was.
Where does that put him amongst most games played for any one club?
It's a good question, because people skew it because they go Premier League. So I think Gareth Barry and James Milner have more.
Yeah,
well, that's Premier League.
He's second.
For one club, though.
He's second. So, Rogero Ceni, this is just according to the AI Google review, so I'll double check this, but they are quoting, I'll tell you what they're quoting, Transfer Market. So let's just use them. I'm going to trust them. So these are your one club men, top 5 of all time.
Maldini.
So it's, I mean, this is according to, in the top 5 leagues, which, you know, whatever, it is Ryan Giggs, number 1. 963, 24 seasons, 963 games. Number 2 is Maldini. Totti is 3. I wouldn't know number 4. It's Bergomi for...
Is that
Inter, yeah. 754. Then Thomas Muller for Bayern, obviously, is your top 5. Then you've got Carragher, Scholes, Sanchez, Koke, and Tony Adams. But that's amazing, isn't it? Number 5 is Muller, and Giggs has played over 200 games more than that.
It's mad, isn't it?
It's so crazy.
As well, like, loads of reasons why Giggs is right up there. Obviously, the Champions League changing a little bit, so you're having more games in that, which he always played in. And also United doing well in the Champions League when Giggs was there, keeping himself fit, adapting his game, and becoming more of a central midfielder from a winger. If he's a winger, he wouldn't have played anywhere near 900 games. You know, how many 40-year-old wingers do you know? But he obviously became a central midfielder, and also being mint up until he retired. Like, if you're looking at last season, was it under Moyes' last season, or was it?
Yeah, 2014. Yeah.
Like, remember, I go back to that Olympiacos game at Old Trafford, where he absolutely ran the show. In that, what was it, the round of 16 second leg? We were 2-0 down. I was over in Greece for the first leg. We were shocking. 1-3-0 at Old Trafford, and he was amazing. And it was like, you know, one of the sort of last games he played, or certainly one of the last games of the Champions League. But one of the things I always think about Giggs, right, I remember going to Upton Park once, right, in the League Cup. We got beat 4-0. I think Carlton Cole, I think Jonathan Spector, believe it or not, got a brace. And it's 4-0, we're 4-0 down, right, it's starting to snow. It's just a miserable, miserable night. And Fergie played a bit of a makeshift team, we just got battered, and it was just horrible. And it was literally the 93rd minute or whatever. And Ryan Giggs, who's won the lot and we're 4-0 down, was sprinting, chasing down those causes. And you think, that's a guy who, you know, this game is done, it's lost.
Yeah.
We're 4-0 down. He's won everything there is to win several times over.
If anyone's got the right to throw their toys out the pram.
And he's literally chasing lost causes in the 93rd minute because he's like, got to give his all.
That's what you do.
Yeah. It was just that I always remember that. It always sticks with me as like a great example of what Ryan Giggs was about.
And the other thing with just back to the numbers a little bit, obviously not as good as, you know, stories and, you know, how he actually played. But when it's like the Ronaldo thing of like, when you look at, you need to score 50 goals for 19 seasons in a row to catch him. And when you put it that way, you think, no one has ever scored 50 goals for Man United in the history of the club. And you have to do that 19 years every fucking year. Ryan Giggs played 40 games a season on average for 24 years in a row. What are you talking? Like, how good do you have to be just to stay relevant? Just for your play style to still be a thing? 24 seasons after the first one, and you to be playing 40 games a season on average. Other than the season he came in and the season he retired, he never played less than 32 games in a season. Just to be fit that much, let alone be good enough in not just... He wasn't playing for, like, you know, what's that team called that's been promoted 10 times in 15 years in Sunday League and they get a load of credit and they're cool and they're good and all that. That Saturday League team. Dorking, is it? Yeah. right? If you were playing 50 games a year for them, I'd get it. He's doing it for the best team in the world for most of those seasons.
It's
astonishing.
That is
40 games a season for 24 years in a row. Fuck off.
That is like that is, just check for me, right? How many goals was it Chalky scored for you now? Was it 117 or 121? I can't remember. It's bugging me. I can't remember. I've not spoken to him for a while.
do you ask him every time you speak to him?
Since.
I'll go on Manchester United on his Legends profile at Manchester United.
That'll say it. I'm sure it's either 121 or 117.
127.
127. I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah.
127. Doing it with this service. Sorry, Mr. McClare. 127 goals for United.
Yeah. Nice to talk about football.
When we were good.
When we were good for
when
once.
We had players that played loads of games for us and scored loads of goals and won loads of trophies.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we'll be talking about that again in a few years' time.
Of course.
You want to do Wally of the Week?
I want to do Wally of the Week. I'll start with you, Jay. It's a bit more difficult when there's no United games. No one's wronging us. Who's your Wally of the Week?
Do you know what it is, right? I'm going to go with the media.
Love this. As a whole.
As
worldwide?
Yeah.
Mine's similar, to be fair.
Yeah, right. As a journalist myself, a multi-award winning journalist as well. I am part of the firm. But I get, right, it's a slow news day every day when it's international football. But some of the stories and stuff we're seeing, and listen, I ain't even got a dog in the fight. I don't particularly care about England that much. I do when it's a tournament, when there's United players playing for them, but when there isn't and it's a qualifier or it's a friendly, I don't even watch it half the time. I just struggle to motivate myself. And I see all this furore about Jude Bellingham, and again, I don't really, I'm not that fond of Jude Bellingham. I think he's a mint footballer, but it's not like I'm, his mate or what to stick up for him. He don't play for my club. But I just think this whole thing of his reaction to certain things, and now it's all about everyone's laying into him and Tuchel's been asked about it and Tuchel's going to discipline him or whatever. I just think, Jesus, haven't England just had like an exemplary qualifying campaign? And they conceded like barely any goals.
0.
Well, there you go.
They've won all 8 games conceding 0 goals.
And all the stories...
We've never done that before.
Right. All the stories I've seen, and listen, like, you might question Jude Bellingham, whatever, but all the stories I'm seeing this morning are about Bellingham and his reaction.
He was trending this morning.
Yeah,
nothing else was.
This qualifying campaign, which is exemplary, and I got it wrong by saying England, and I say we, I am English, conceded 2 goals and it wasn't just conceded 0. Yeah. And I'm old enough to remember when England didn't always qualify for the World Cup, and it'd be dramas. It'd be like 94 when we didn't, or the Euros in 2008, and it was like, we've qualified for this, it's exemplary, and it's Jude Bellingham's reaction to getting subbed is the trending, and I just think, mate, come on, man, like, really?
And the phrasing of the question to Tuchel as well was like, everyone's cheering the goal and you've got one player there who's clearly not getting involved, he's throwing his arms around. Is that good for team spirit and all that? Like, it's... Do
you know what I heard this morning,
loaded.
Joe, upstairs when we were watching Sky? Someone brought up the David Beckham effigies thing. Yeah. And I just thought, what are you doing? Yeah. What are you on about? Like, is this what we're doing now? Like, come on, man. It's just nothingness. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So that's my personal one.
Mine is in a similar vein, the media industry. Whichever Wally producer or editor at Sky Sports that passed off their weird subdivision girls only football
Sky Sports Halo.
Sky Sports Halo. Yeah. Just the most blatantly sexist, condescending thing I've ever seen. What are they thinking?
Do you know what?
Like, several people had to be in a room together and put this idea forward, and then ask themselves, is this a good idea? Are people going to like this? Yeah. Does this bring value to people's lives?
The only it's
so it reminded me of
the decision-making process.
Like, I've got 2 daughters, right, and it reminds me of me chatting to my daughters like I'm trying to talk like they do and embarrassing them. Yeah. It was like I'd written it. Some of the stuff I was seeing, it was like, what was it like? Immature, talking about Mamdani's Riz. Because when he was mentioning Arsenal, like,
just throwing every social media term that they can.
Who wrote this? This is like some middle-aged person, like middle-aged bloke write this.
Cringe-inducing.
Honestly, it was so bad. Even like the colours. Yeah. Like, let's throw a load of pinks in there.
It has to be
because it's women.
Women can only watch football when it's pink.
Yeah. Let's talk about top 10 players you'd like to shag. Let's put that on there, eh? For the birds.
It literally was one step away from that. and the thing, even the announcing it was like, this, like, for the girlies. And you're like, come on, just everyone watches football. It's fine.
Sure.
You don't have to do it. Like, yeah.
Honestly, it was. Yeah,
Just
that's a great
absolute-
shout out for you. I'm glad you brought that.
Yeah,
I forgot about
the
that,
mad
to
thing
be
is
fair.
that didn't existed, and then no longer exists since
already
the last
pulled it.
podcast. I'd already forgotten about it since it even began.
Who could have seen that coming?
It's so mental that it's literally like something.
Surely you've got
it's
to
like,
lose
do you
your
remember
job
they used
if
to
you've
do-
signed that off.
They do like the kit, and then they do the women's kit with like a big deep V neckline on it to show a bit of cleavage.
Yeah.
United did that until like 2020.
Shorts that were dead
it's-
short.
Yeah, and it's like,
Wow,
here's
what
the
you doing?
women's version of Sky Sports where it's all just a bit silly, and we talk about matcha lattes.
Matcha lattes, yeah.
Fuck me,
Mate,
come on, guys.
That's a great
That's
shout
a
out.
great
Finn, who's
shout.
yours?
I don't, it's got to be Cristiano Ronaldo actually.
Why?
Because he got himself sent off by being an absolute idiot.
Yeah.
And then the next game later, I think Portugal won 9-1, didn't they?
Yeah,
7-1.
Armenia
It was
9-1. Yeah, Bruno scored a hat-trick, didn't
Bruno
he?
got a hat-trick. Obviously, they might have got...
He only got a
might
hat-trick
have
as well
scored.
because Ronnie weren't there and he got to take 2 penalties.
Yeah, exactly. So Ronaldo probably would have got 2 goals in that game at least anyway, but...
He's fuming in here. I bet Ronaldo didn't even celebrate that. And if he did, it was pure performance.
When that penalty was awarded, because the other goals you never know, but he knows he'd have been taking them. He was telling the ref to go to the VAR to get it overturned. He was honestly, that's not a penalty. Because no one takes a Portuguese penalty without Cristiano Ronaldo being there. Yeah. Like, he was fuming when those penalties got awarded. But yeah, I mean, it's just funny. But it's like last time when he got, was it suspended or injured, and then Gonzalo Ramos came in and got a hat-trick.
Yeah. Oh, in the World Cup.
In the World Cup.
Yeah,
and then actually, it turns out probably Ronaldo is still better than Gonzalo Ramos.
Yeah.
But, certainly in terms of scoring goals for the national team.
Yeah.
But it is funny that he got sent off and then they won 9-1 the next game.
Yeah, you know he's like texting Bruno like, so you got an hat-trick.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. I mean, technically, I'll have 2 of those.
Yeah.
Give me 1.
Yeah.
I'll take 1.
Don't think you're on penalties next time.
Yeah.
No, you can forget that.
Yeah, that's
Forget that
mine
noise,
again.
sunshine.
Yeah, enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, that's probably what he said.
Yeah.
Like, well, do you know what I mean? But the seriousness.
Glenn F in the comments says, "Wow, we agreed. Great minds and all." That was Glenn's as well. Loads of people in the chat laughing and agreeing with some of the Wallies of the week. Yeah, Halo, laughing my arse off, says a full named Huggy. It was so mad that one. It felt so like 2000.
Do you know what I mean? You made a point as well.
90s.
Like, when you see something in print or on your telly or whatever, it's not just been uploaded. It's gone through a process. Someone's
Several
written
stages
it. Someone's
of
come up. Someone's sat in a room
yeah.
and gone, "This is what we're gonna do." Someone's filmed it. Someone's posted it. Like someone's written it. Someone's filmed it.
Created the graphics.
Yeah, someone's
for it.
created the graphics. Someone's like, there's probably like 3 sets of editors that have signed off on it. A manager's probably signed off on it, or a producer. And it's like it went through all that.
Do you know
And no one went, "This is fucking absolutely atrocious."
The only
What we
way
doing?
I can think it possibly happened is, if you actually think about it, I would be stunned if it was just a middle-aged bloke's idea. That would be so mental. Everyone would be like, you would have to think there was a woman involved at some
I think
point.
it was. I think what it could be is, you've got like a girl who's 19 on work placement, and the boss has written this and gone, "Hey, this is ace. What do you think of this?"
Yeah.
And she's gone, "Yeah, it's fine." And he's gone, "Right, sound." I got some input.
Yeah,
And
it has to be something.
The younger
like that.
generation agree with me.
Because surely, like, it's just so stupid, isn't it? Yeah. Surely it's. I mean, great
They
shout.
do a
from
lot of
us.
that though, Sky, don't they? Where they'll
Yeah.
see something that has happened elsewhere, and then try and do their version of it.
And it just
And
doesn't
it just
go.
doesn't work. And all they do, they just get it wrong.
Even calling it Halo as well, like cutesy. Do you know what I mean? It's just so bad, isn't it?
Demure.
Beyonce song, bit cute. Fucking hell, guys.
Yeah. Before we go, can we do a little reminder about our merchandise?
This
Thank
little
you.
piece
Little
here.
pieces in there. We've got loads of merchandise. There's a link, I think, in the description. Put it in the chat as well. Go and check it out. Christmas is almost here, sort of. So some good Christmas presents to get people. There you go, Stretford Paddock store.
Yeah.
Finn, thank you as well.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll let you do
brilliant.
it. You're
No, but
presenting.
it's been
Sorry.
great to have you on,
Getting
Finn,
in on
as
your,
always.
hosting gig.
Jay, you too. Good to have you on.
Sir.
Thank you very much for joining us, everyone at home. And, well, I was going to say United are playing this week, but technically we're not.
How
It's Monday night.
man swindles us for another day and a day and a bit because it's an evening kickoff on a Monday.
I know.
You think like you're just almost there, and it's like, hang on a minute, you've got an extra day,
Yeah.
and a Monday night as well. It's
Embarrassing.
like, I'm not into that, man.
Yeah.
It's like we don't get Champions League football, but we still get the evening kickoffs.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Disgusting. But we've got loads of build-up, loads of exciting stuff coming this week, including we've got a special journalist in tomorrow as well, haven't we?
Yeah, we're going to talk about AFCON tomorrow. All the different permutations where United could, or well, not where United could end up because we're not in it, but who United could lose for how long.
I basically think we are in it.
Could United win AFCON this year?
Finally.
Could it finally be
the
year?
one trophy that's been eluding us all these years?
If Cameroon win AFCON, are we going to do what West Ham fans do with England?
Yeah, basically.
With like Onana and Bumo.
Yeah, but it wasn't United's fault when they got knocked out of the World Cup by DR Congo last week. That wasn't us. That was them. But when we win it, it's us. Right, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for joining us at home as well. We'll see you in a bit.